People want to solve their problems in order to have a better life, in order to create a business product, in order to just simply have a lovely home life. And the thing is that when they have a problem, what most of us do is we tend to look outwards and see what other people have been doing that is similar, but it isn't the same. What other people are doing is what they are doing in their own way. And what we must do is look inside of ourselves and ask ourselves questions, and this is the beginning of creative thinking. When we look inside at the problem which we have created, we begin to have insight, and therefore we gain knowledge about what the nature of the problem is. If we look outside and we start taking ideas that belong to other people and other people have used in order to solve their problems, which may look similar to our own, we can end up with a cookie cutter solution. If we can put ourselves in a position mentally to be able to look at our problem and see it from new perspectives, then we will also see new connections. And it's these new connections that cause our mind to become much more aware of the problem, and therefore we also see how the connection leads to a better solution. When we do this, what happens is the mind is opened up to new ideas, to new thoughts, to new patterns of thoughts. And if you like to get into the neurological ideas of it opens up new pathways in the physical brain, which makes the new connections in the brain. When we have new perspectives, what we can do is begin to see that these solutions that we are discovering, which are more unique, are also very much connected with other people's problems and our own problems. Because, we mustn't ever forget the fact that we are all connected as human beings, and the things we need are what creates our problems. And those needs are very universal around the world. We all need food and shelter. We need some money. We need a place to live so that we can live in harmony with our family, our partners, and our children, and we can live with love, which is a very important thing, and I'll always be reiterating that. So why does a new perspective, which is what we want, offer a better path of action? So we've got to think about this, and why does a new perspective on things offer a better path of action? A new angle of thought offers us a unique idea, and this is what everybody is looking for, especially if you are an artist of some type, a writer, a short story writer like myself. I've written many short stories. Photography, something else I do, I love it. It's always just creativity all the way. And the way that we work with this is a little bit different to business people who are trying to get on board with the creative idea. And that is that if you write a story, what's going to be happening is that you firstly have to come up with an idea. There's a few people about who think you have to come up with a concept first, but you don't. You come up with an idea about character. Then once you've got this through a creative process, you're going to be working with developing a story through the first draft. First draft is going to be discovery. You're going to be finding out what's going on in this story. What does this character do? And the writer, just like most other artists, they're always working with reiteration, which is really looking and discovering. We're always pushing the creative envelope in order to be able to discover what happens next. So this is why it takes a long time to write a short story. It's why it takes a long time to write a novel. Also to be able to take great photos, for example, or paint really beautiful pictures. It's not every single attempt that works out well, because we're always in this path of reiteration. We're reinventing, we're looking at things and trying to reinvent them by bringing them into ourselves and then being able to think about them. But there's a hell of a lot happening with the unconscious mind as well. Very often we need to be able to think deeply about an idea, a character. Who is this person? That's one of the reasons why we need to know their background, what their objectives are. The more you know about the objectives of your character, the more you're going to be able to sit down and just write what they're doing, because they're going for that objective. But then there comes a point where we feel a bit blocked, for want of a better word. In other words, we don't have any more ideas. So basically it's a good time to just sleep on the idea and allow the unconscious mind to do its work. I love it the way that Stephen King calls that, give it to the boys in the basement. They'll sort it out, the unconscious mind. But you really do have to forget it, work on something else, like a journal, for example. What happens is the unconscious mind does work on it. We don't know how that happens, but it does. It's just not conscious thought. But because it's important to you as an artist, a writer, or a business person, entrepreneur, you will find that suddenly, at some point in the near future, really good ideas pop up. And you start thinking, that could be it, that's the solution. Sometimes I discover that it's like you just suddenly wake up in the morning and you think, bloody hell, I've got a really good idea. And it does come from the fact that you handed it over to the boys in the basement who sorted it, worked on it, did their work, and then finally just gave it back to you in a much more formulated and doable form. And that's the point when action comes. But also we have to evaluate the idea. As an entrepreneur, you're going to have to take action and create whatever the idea is and be able to present it to maybe some members of the public. If you're a writer, you're going to have to sit down and start writing it to find out if it works. It's in action, that is writing, maybe if it's first draft or second draft, but it's in the writing and it's in the action of creating an idea that we can see more deeply whether it really does work or not. Very often it gives us a deeper insight into the idea that we've got it right, but we have to reiterate again. And maybe there's a little bit more thinking to be done. But it gives us that basic model that we can work on and formulate into something much better, much more doable, much more acceptable. When we think like this, when we approach our problems in this way, and we know that the problem solved will offer a great solution and a unique solution that comes from ourselves, then that's when we're highly motivated and the mind goes into divergent thinking. Instead of thinking linear and just thinking, well, this is how other people do it, think for yourself and become divergent in your thinking, and don't be afraid to make really crazy connections. If you want to just test creative thinking for yourself and see, what happens for you personally when you practice creative thinking, but you don't have any sort of plans or projects or anything like this, why don't you do something like begin a journal? If you begin a journal, you're starting to dig deep into your mind, but in a very relaxed way. Because the wonderful thing about a journal is you sit there and you just write what you feel about yourself and your relationship to the world. Very often you're writing about how you acted in the past or what you are planning. You are writing about possibly how you feel. You might not feel too good, or you might feel good and know why and write that down. You write everything about yourself. A journal is a place where you can be the most honest person in the world. And this is the reason why other people have no interest in your journal. That is, you should not allow them to have an interest in it, because it's where you reveal all your secrets to yourself. Now, the interesting thing about a journal is if you write it for a couple of months, 3 or 4 months, keep at it, you'll discover it has enormous use and it helps you very much to become more focused on the flow of your life. And you can read parts of it which you've written, or you can read all of it over a period of 3 months, and you'll see a pattern of thought and you didn't know it was there. This is revealing your thinking. And when you see that, you're seeing something you couldn't see before, and it's going into that idea that there are blind spots in our life, such as the flow of ideas that we have that lead to action over a period of 2 months or 3 months. This is something that a journal can reveal. And in that way, we can be honest with ourselves and see that I'm going round in circles. Or you might even discover that actually you're on the right track and you're actually achieving something, but you could do it a little bit better. That would be great, wouldn't it?